So we're going to be doing a video update on the race car repair. This weekend the owner came in and he stripped down the donor race car, and as you can see he exposed a bit of rust. Now for all of you guys that follow our videos, you know that this is a very common area to absorb moisture and eventually rot away. Again, 50-year-old car, it's going to have rust issues. This is a very common repair we do. I know it looks bad, and it is pretty bad, but we're pretty used to making this piece. This piece isn't very difficult to do, but it is tricky and it does take time. Making each little piece here, because you can't make this entire piece all in one and break it on the brake and then shrink it and stretch it. It doesn't work. Metal won't bend that way. So what we have to do is we have to make this lower step piece as one. We have to make this upper step piece as another one. And these corner pieces are really tricky to do because it's such a tight radius right here that you have to bend. And even our tools, our shrinker and stretchers, and we've got some good tools, don't like to shrink something this tight. So like I said, it's a little bit tricky. If you don't have some pro tools at home, this might be a little bit difficult for the do-it-yourself hobbyist type. We get this kind of repair in all the time when we do a restoration. Even when we're doing a repaint, we usually have to replace this. I mean, it just rots away, and you can't put the gaskets back in the way it is, or the trim, or expect the quarter window to be watertight. So if you want it right, you gotta replace it.
Okay, what you're seeing right now is Johnny's going to tape off the area that has weld-through primer that is going to be applied. Weld-through primer is that copper-colored primer you're going to see shortly. But before he can do that, he needs to protect the rest of the metal down below the panel. So you're going to see him using a standard black epoxy primer to protect that exposed metal down there. That was never primed from the factory, which is a good indicator as to why some of the rusting happens in the most consistent places on these cars. But once the actual epoxy primer is applied below, you'll remove the tape, and then you'll see him apply the copper primer. The copper primer is special formulated so we can weld two pieces of metal together without burning away a primer and protecting that immediate area from the welds. Okay, so our project race car is well underway. We just got it back from the blasters. Anytime you get something blasted, you should really do your very best to get it into some form of epoxy within the first 48 hours. If you are in adverse weather conditions, immediately, non-negotiable. It's nice and sunny here in the Seattle area, but metal absorbs moisture on the microscopic level regardless of where you live, so you don't want it in an open cut like this for very long. This has the typical damage that we always see. It has hyperextended dents right here from the door check straps. Anyway, so with the check strap damage and a little bit of rust down here, this is all fairly normal routine stuff. I'm somewhat pleasantly surprised as to how clean this car is. The doors are a bit past it and we have those en route to us, but for a car that's spent a good portion of its life on the track, this one is in fairly good shape. Whoever rolled the fenders did a really good job as far as how they got the metal to come out and reposition it. So there's lots of pluses about this car, and it's really going to help for us to get it into the scheduled timeline as far as getting it done for next race season. Effectively, just wanted you to see what it looks like and make sure that you know that if you get a car blasted, make sure they understand that they're not blasting classic American steel. It's not only harder steel, but it's much thicker steel. This stuff, if your blaster doesn't know what he's doing, or he doesn't have a long line of cars that he's experienced with, he is going to ruin your outfit. You cannot blast this stuff straight on like they do industrial steel. They have to literally peel this way like peeling a potato. It has to come in on an angle to remove the paint and all the body filler. This particular car was somewhat difficult because the doors were very full of body filler, and the hood was really full of body filler, and the rear was full of body filler. Had they approached this like they do American car, they would have warped every panel on here. You have to blast at an angle and remove it layer by layer. That's the only way you're going to ensure that the panels don't get warped.
So we're doing an update on the race car. As you can see, we've cut out all four corners of the floors here, and it's pretty extensive work. One thing that we had to do is we had to plasma cut everything out, and we've got a bunch of brackets here underneath the floor. Some from the old floor. Here's some of the seatbelt cleats. We're going to keep those just in case we need to reuse them. Since it's a race car, I'm not sure if we're actually going to need them or not. So it requires a lot of work here. I've taken a combination of a chisel, an air chisel, plasma cutter, all kinds of hammers to get all the pieces out that we need to get out of this floor. There's tons of welds. There's a lot of welds down this this frame beam right here. Lots of them. I mean, there's like 20 of them just right there. So it requires a lot of time. It gets pretty loud, pretty dirty, especially because these cars have this sound deadener and insulator here. This stuff is really nasty. This tar is just disgusting to work with. So what we have to do is we have to scrape that off so the plasma cutter actually has contact with the metal so that we can cut and have a nice clean cut. We've got all the floor pans out. Now we're starting to mock the new floor pans in, and that also takes some time. We've got to fit them into place, take them out, grind a little bit more, shape them up a little bit more, trim them a little bit more, put them back in, make sure they work, and that's just the process that it takes to do something like this. We're going to do the best we can to get these things in as quick as possible because, well, it is a race car, so it doesn't have to be all pretty, but it does have to be sound, and it does have to be strong, because if this race car was to take a wall at 70 miles an hour, we have to make sure that this floor is going to do what it's supposed to do. So right now our paint booth is backed up, and we need to hurry up and get this thing in there and get it acid etched to protect this metal. We don't want this bare metal to be sitting out with all this humidity going on in the Northwest right now. The driver's side rear floor pan prepped for installation. We've got the front floor pan in. There's just a little bit more welding that we have to do to get it finished up. But as you can see here, I'm starting to sand the piece with 80 grit on a DA. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's too difficult. Well, I shouldn't say it's too difficult. It takes too much time to install the part, hurry up and install the part, do all the prep work, install it, weld it in, and then come back and have to smash your fingertips in these corners trying to prep this piece so that the texture or primers or anything that we're laying on top of it will stick to it. It's much easier to just prep this piece, then install it, then all we have to do is clean up the welds and do seam sealing and we're done. We don't have to go back over and basically backtrack what we're doing. So I got the bottom side of this prepped, the entire piece is trimmed to where I want it to fit, and as soon as this is done being prepped, we'll install it and start welding.
Pause. Don't move. Now, talk about why we fully weld these in on race cars instead of just plug welding them.
Now, another important thing that we have to talk about is during the installation process, why is it that we fully seam weld everything? The reason is because it adds a lot more rigidity to the actual car. We're making the car much stronger than just the resistance welds that are originally on there. So later on, throughout this video, you're going to be seeing close-ups of the welds along this entire seam here, down the bottom. This entire thing is going to be welded. It's going to be solid. That's going to, believe me, race car drivers, they will know, they will be able to feel in the handling how rigid the car is.
Good job.